Kenyatta really welcomed the recommendations that have been made by SRC over the new pay structure. And I still have my guest here, Charles Omanga, here in studio. He's a lawyer and an analyst. Thank you so much for staying with us. So earlier on, Charles, you were very emphatic that public participation should have been one of the key, areas where the SRC should have focused when coming up with this structure. And of course, listening to the residents in Mombasa there, they feel like, their views, you can tell like their views really were not taken into consideration. So how can SRC write this in case they want to?
Betty, I think at last I've been vindicated because my earlier position is that this is a welcome move. This is a move that should be supported. And every Kenyan, every jobless Kenyan that is really concerned about the development issues, about the job creation issues, which the president has really emphasized, that this is a step towards ensuring that we create more jobs, we improve our infrastructure, school, hospitals, and et cetera, et cetera. But you realize that now the only issue is the public are saying that that is not what they expected. It means if at all SRC had consulted very widely and at least engage the public, because the desired effect of all this entire process is to ensure that the ordinary mwananchi at least have that weight off their shoulders of high cost of living, lack of jobs, lack of infrastructure. Now, to cure the same problem, as I mentioned, Kenyans have become very extremely litigious. The SRC has a mandate that now, since they did not precede this with very active and constructive public participation exercise, now these recommendations, these guidelines are now, this is the perfect opportunity for them now to go across the country, across the 47 counties, and tell the citizens, look here, this is what we propose in terms of salaries for MCAs. This is what we propose for MCAs, your governor, your county executives, your permanent secretaries. What do you think? So that to avert any litigation, because you cannot prevent anyone from going to court to challenge that my views were not taken in this document.
Right.
The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has an opportunity to ensure that now this policy guideline, these salary recommendations now goes to the people.
Okay.
So as they were saying, the MCAs, the MP are still more, they need, they should have earned even 500,000. Now they get those views. And once they get that collectivity of the general will of the people, then they can be able to make either further recommendations or further amendments as far as the salaries are concerned. So that at the end of the day, because this thing has still a time for implementation, it takes effect after the next parliament. Therefore, within the intervening period, we have an opportunity to listen, to hear, and to take into consideration the views of all other stakeholders, the citizens, and the people of Kenya.
All right, so as we wind up, I want to change the direction of the conversation and ask, why is it that, even all the Kenyans that we've interviewed, and even you saw earlier on, my colleagues, in the counties talking to Kenyans, and most of them feel like, these salaries should be reduced even more. Is it that Kenyans do not feel the work that is put in by the legislators and everything? Why is it that, it's like a general feeling across the country that, it actually needed to be cut some more?
The reason that is happening, Betty, is that our members of parliament, our elected representatives, have forgotten their role. It means the people of Kenya do not really feel the impact. The role of MCA and members of parliament, of legislation, oversight and representation. It means those whom have been given that opportunity have not effectively represented their constituents. They have not effectively legislated. They have not effectively represented and oversight those whom they are tasked to oversight. You realize MCAs in the counties, the governor and the executive, corruption, more trips abroad, which do not really have returns. They don't come back. In the National Assembly, more deals, more tenders, more procurement issues. The people at the constituency level do not really feel that I'm very effectively represented. Right. The legislations have not been made on my behalf. Therefore, that is why they are feeling that there is no role of MCAs. But MCAs are a very, very important people in this current governance structure than even members of parliament, because they do the same role and they are with the people. Therefore, it is a wake-up call for those who will be able to get another opportunity to inspire and to re-engineer the confidence of the people of the electorate, to ensure that the opportunity to lead, they get the fullness of that meaning of elected representation.
All right. I had a panel of guests yesterday as we're discussing the same thing, and one of them said, how about we give targets, to these legislators, the members of parliament, key performance indices, so that, at the end of the term, they're able to say, this is what I was able to achieve, this is not what I was able to achieve, which can also be used, in electing them to parliament.
I will still voice the same, because if at all giving these people targets would help us at least to take stock and to actually try to evaluate them at the end of their term or in the middle of their term to see if at all they are really meeting the requirements. You remember the Article 104 of the Constitution that is talking about the recall has never been fully facilitated, because there is no a guideline or a process by which the members of a particular constituency can tell the member of parliament that you've not so far managed to achieve this and that. Therefore, we are recalling, if we can come up with a very good framework, a participatory process where we would be able to say, okay, look here, as a member of a county assembly, as a member of parliament, as a governor, and the members of executive, all these people in the public service, these are the targets, this is the evaluation procedure, these are the indices. Then we would be able to, through that process, actually also ensure a full facilitation of the recall clause of our national constitution. So I would support that process, but the question is, how can we ensure that process? That is the question. Once we get that question right, Betty, then I can assure you that the Kenyans will no longer, and even in future, have this feeling that these people should not be paid because we don't really feel what they do for us once they are elected.
All right. Yes. Interesting. Thank you very much, Charles Omanga, for your insights. Very interesting conversation. And shortly, we'll be taking a look at your responses here and your comments about the same. We've been speaking to Charles Omanga. He's a lawyer and a political analyst. Thank you very much for your time, Charles.
Thank you.
All right. So shortly, we'll be looking at, some of those numbers really that